It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Thursday? We do, you do. From the DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, we welcome you to our Thursday podcast as we get ready to kick off a great sports weekend. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host, John Riley. And for the next hour plus, we're ready to talk sports with you because we do sports talk radio the way it should be done. This podcast is brought to you by the good people at DIXIELINE Lumber. You've got project plans in the home, at work, out by the pool for 2025. Think about materials, think about ideas, think about DIXIELINE Lumber. John Riley, good afternoon. Huge week of sports coming out of the winter baseball meetings, going to a big college football game, and then all things NFL come Sunday. How you doing?
Good. I remember there was a time that this was sort of a lull in the sports world with college football taking a lull, but everything is now jam-packed, and here we go, got a full schedule.
Yeah, we're going a lot of different directions on the podcast today. Hold on, because we're going to rock and roll. Do want to remind you, if you like sports, I write sports every day on my website. That's the address right at the top of the screen, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. It's all written. You give me 5 minutes every morning. I'll tell you everything there is in the world of sports. You love sports. We want you to share, want you to subscribe. Tell everybody what we do on the podcast. Mondays at 1 p.m., Thursdays at 1 p.m. And of course, we want you to subscribe to the YouTube channel because then you'll get the alerts every time we put something up on the YouTube channel, which is quite often during the course of the week. You're on social media. I know you're on social media. I want you to join my team on Twitter. It's called Twitter All-Stars. Just use my handle, at Hacksaw1090, at Hacksaw1090. Hit the follow button because we put a lot of stuff on social media. So, John, we got a lot of topics on the table, but when we're done talking about all the stories that you and I want to discuss, the people, the fans, take over. It's called Fans Forum.
Yeah, the people. This is your chance to get involved. So you got a question or comment in the world of sports, type it in the live chat on YouTube, X, or Facebook. We'll get you involved in Fans Forum at the conclusion of Hacksaw's Headlines.
We got a lot to talk about. Let's start with what just concluded in Dallas, Texas. We're talking about the winter baseball meetings. Over $1.2 billion in contracts signed over a 4-day period at the winter meetings. Some of the teams active, bunch of teams waiting to get active, bunch of other teams kind of giving up on the baseball season. Let's start with Padre baseball. Nice headline, addition by subtraction. I've been talking about this for a period of time, and I'll just ask the burning question. The Padres have become pennant contenders over the last couple of years. The blueprint that A.J. Preller has refined has started to work. But with the passing of Peter Seidler, new leadership, new philosophy, things I think have changed as it relates to how the Padres are going to operate going forward. Cut the payroll this past season, evidently not willing to bump the payroll up this coming season. They got contract problems with 7 guys that are due healthy pay raises. Does not appear they're going to be able to keep all of them. I will ask this burning question, and I want you to respond on Fans Forum early by jumping on board and give me a reaction. The fans in this community have set records 2 years in a row as it relates to attendance, sellouts, etc. The volume of money the Padres have generated in revenue across the board is at an all-time record. And yet they're taking this payroll from $231 million down to $170 million, and that's where they're going to stay. And they're going to lose players by the process of the fact guys who had good seasons deserve pay hikes. I'm just asking the question. Your Padre fans have shown up and paid an unbelievable amount of money to go support Padre baseball. Ticket prices have gone up 50% in a 4-year window. You've done your job. Don't you think Padre ownership owes it to you to bump this payroll back up, maybe go from 170 to 190 so you can keep this core team intact and not have to trade people? That's one of the burning questions I'm posing in Fans Forum right now. We get a lot of response to what we talk about in baseball. I want you to respond if you can there. Now, let's go bullet point by bullet point as it relates to where the Padres are. They are shopping Dylan Cease, whom they paid quite a price to get from the Chicago White Sox. They got the through no-hitter, the guy that was rock solid up until his final start of the season when they get knocked out of the playoffs. The Red Sox and the Orioles are very interested. I thought they had a shot to move him to the Red Sox. He's got this year arbitration, pay probably $13.6 million. Padres don't think they can afford that. I thought they were going to trade him into the Red Sox for power-hitting young first baseman Tristan Casas and maybe a minor league pitcher. But now the Red Sox are talking to Seattle about Casas going there for one of the Mariners' pitchers. So that deal looks like it may have stalled. There's been an awful lot of talk also, obviously, about moving other players. They got a lot of unsigned guys. What are they going to do next? And that becomes a real big arguing point as we go forward with this Padres team as to who do you keep, who do you let go? They have talked about Cease to Baltimore for young pitching sensation Cade Povich and another pitcher or possibly an outfielder. But at this point, I don't think Baltimore wants to take on a $13.6 million contract. So the Padres are kind of between the rock and a hard place. They have shopped Luis Arise. Reputation precedes him. Great eye contact singles hitter. Not great in the field, doesn't run the bases well, has negligible power. Yet, because of arbitration, Luis Arise could earn them $14.8 million. I don't think the Padres want to do that. I don't know how marketable he is right now. I guess the sidebar question, if you trade Cease and you trade Arise and you get young players back, that sounds good in theory, but you're creating massive holes on your roster if you're getting younger guys to replace proven commodity guys. So the burning question, how do you improve your team if you're creating holes in your team? Or as John Riley's headline says, addition by subtraction. And with apologies in advance, you can't sales pitch season ticket holders that all is well. If you think your rotation's going to involve Adrian Morejon, Brian Hoeing, Vasquez, Waldron, Brito, all is not well if that's what your rotation winds up being. Now, there are guys out there behind the curtain. Jack Flaherty, the Dodgers, still available. Walker Buehler, still available. Padres will be part of the bidding process for Roki Sasaki, but you can't think it's a lock because everybody else has a sales pitch they're going to make, and some of these other teams have been big-time winners. Padres did pick up a starting pitcher in the Rule 5 draft, Juan Nunez, 2.45 ERA at AA, velocity and all that, but he's young. He's never really done it, never been above AA ball. Now, as a Rule 5 guy, he's stuck on this roster all year. Otherwise, you have to offer him back to the Baltimore Orioles. So the Padres come out of the winter baseball meetings, quote, laying groundwork for everything, but there's question marks everywhere. Question marks, what do you get for Cease? Can you move Arise? Are you creating massive holes in your roster if you dump those two guys? And my bigger question of the day, doesn't ownership owe the fans of this community to build this roster and increase this payroll, considering how this community has poured all of its money into fan-supported Petco Park? End of sermon for me. John Riley, the podium is yours. I threw a lot of high, hard ones at you. Don't foul them off. Put it in play. Go ahead.
It's funny how, you're saying on one hand, guys like Luis Arise, just a one-dimensional player. Is he really worth the money? And on the other hand, you're saying they need to pay him the money. They need to put the money on the table. Now, I'm just going to take a bit of a devil's advocate here. Again? No, but some of the fans on social media have been saying that, yeah, even if their payroll is at 170 or 180 or 190, whatever that is, that's still a lot. Isn't that like still in the top 10 in Major League Baseball? It's not like we're going back to the Chris Denorfia days of the Padre baseball. So we're still dealing with a lot of money. I think, I have confidence in Preller. He's going to find a way to parlay this to get value for value. And if he can't pick up anybody, or maybe he can't move Cease and move Arise, then maybe you sign those guys. But then, Morejon has shown flashes of being a starter. He was a number 5 starter before he hurt his arm the second time. He could be a number 4 or number 5 guy. I mean, that could work. Hoeing was kind of a long reliever. He could potentially work as well. So it's not like we're to the Dodgers. We can't compare ourselves with that. But as long as we have a competitive team, I'm good. Just find a way to not tear it down.
But if you move Cease and you move Arise, are you not tearing it down?
Well, it depends what you get in return. I mean, if you get a bunch of single A prospects, then yeah, you're tearing it down. But if he's able to find guys that are like pre-arbitration or before, like they have 2 or 3 years left of control, there's a way he could finagle it. And Preller is very savvy. I mean, he gets a lot of crap for all this. You say trade away the farm system 3.5 times, but he keeps replenishing it, and we still have a great roster right now. I mean, if you were to take the names that we have on the list today, I think at least half, if not 2/3 of the GMs in baseball would love to have our roster.
But the problem is they got 7 they got to pay. And they evidently are sending these messages that we can't do this because those guys upstairs won't allow us to do it. But that's the issue.
Right. And on one level, that's true. He's getting hard payroll numbers. But on the other hand, he's just talking. He's negotiating. He's putting topics on the table, to see who's going to bite, what kind of bait is going to work, and what can he get in return.
If he walks through the door and behind this curtain and yells at me, I got SASAKI and we're getting FLAHERTY, or I got SASAKI and we're going to get BUEHLER. Okay, that's fine because you got established people to replace the guys that you're moving. But I guarantee you, if Boston trades Cassis, the power hitting first baseman, to Seattle, then Cease to Boston can't be done. And Baltimore said, no, we're not going to pay $14 million to Dylan Cease. They've got just a cadre of young players, but they don't want to take on a $14 million payroll. And from what I gather, there's not a hell of a lot of people in the running for Arise because they all see what happened in Minnesota, Miami, now in San Diego. His one dimension is fine, but his one dimension is not a $14 million player. I don't know what Preller's going to do if he's backed into the corner.
Isn't it funny how $14 million doesn't sound like a lot of money anymore?
Yeah.
Because everyone's making 30, 40, 50 mil a year.
Based on last week.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I've heard chatter, rumors, maybe these are just hopeful wishes from Padre fans. Can Xander Bogaerts be moved? Is he a guy that can maybe go back to the Red Sox?
No, not at that contract. Not at a contract that runs through age 42. No. And again, that falls to Preller's front door.
Mm-hmm.
A tough situation. Now, that being said, I wrote a column this week. I don't know whether you liked it or not. I said, Padre fans, don't go there. Don't go there. I was making reference to Padre fans. Don't push the panic button yet.
Right.
Now, if SASAKI comes off the board and he's not a Padre and FLAHERTY signs somewhere else or goes back to the Dodgers, then you got a problem. By the way, the panic button is the red one in the upper right-hand corner. Now, don't hit the yellow one because the yellow one will set off a nuclear war with North Korea. So anyhow, that's where we are. But spin back to my initial question at the top of this podcast. Padre fans, I'm looking for you to respond. You have supported this team to 3.3 million fans last year, record revenues, and all they're doing is cutting the payroll back further. Now, are they doing it to put the money in their pocket? Are they doing it to pay off the debt of all the money that Preller burned through in his first 8 years or so before he finally built a winner? But don't you agree with me, based on the support John Q. Fan has given that team, that they owe the fans an increase in the payroll to keep a pennant contending team intact rather than start to split it up? That is topic one. Feel free to join us. Fans Forum chat box is now open for Padre fans. Next topic, John.
Next topic. Okay, let's go talk about the Dodgers. I mean, they got a lot of money to spend, right?
The Dodgers done dealing. Every time we talk Dodger baseball at Chavez Ravine, you always talk about Dodger dogs. Now we're talking about Dodger dollars. My goodness. Dollars to be spent. I don't think they're done dealing. Now, they have to make a decision what they're doing with Teoscar Hernandez. I was told the talks have stalled. They're willing to go 2 years, $60 million. He wants 3 years guaranteed, $90 million. They say no at this point. But he may be running out of options because of other players moving other places. Still here, Baltimore and Boston with him. They still want another starter. That could be SASAKI from Japan. Could be Jack FLAHERTY coming back home. They want a reliever. Could be Tanner Scott, ex-Padre, ex-Marlin. They are talking trade with Milwaukee for Devin Williams, and the Brewers just continue to shed players and to shed payroll. And then at the winter baseball meetings comes a surprise story. They met again with Mookie Betts in November to talk about position. Mookie's going to shortstop. They've decided they're moving Mookie Betts back to shortstop. We'll give him the entire offseason to physically train and get ready and do private workouts to be a shortstop. Lux evidently is staying, going to be the second baseman. Muncy's going to be the third baseman. And they flat out denied. They approached the St. Louis Cardinals about a deal for Nolan Arenado. So the Dodgers are not done dealing yet. But to me, the whole scope of all the storylines in the National League West change if they get Sasaki and they bring back Jack Flaherty. John?
Dodger fans are already in fans forum, just piling on right now. Every one of them says, yeah, we're going to get everybody. We're going to get Flaherty. We're going to get Sasaki. Padres, you guys are doomed. Your window is closed. I mean, we'll get you all in fans forum. I'm stealing some of your thunder, but the response is unbelievable from LA fans.
So what do you think the Dodgers are going to wind up doing? Because they say publicly, coming out of the meetings yesterday, before they all got on the plane and went back to Los Angeles, they said, we're not done dealing. And by the way, Sasaki is in LA, meeting with his agent now through the weekend. We think on Monday, Sasaki will start meeting with individual teams, and he can talk to everybody because everybody knows what the price tag is going to be. It's not a bidding war. It's a fixed amount of money. So what do you think they do?
Well, let's talk about Sasaki, because we all say, oh, Dodgers, Padres are the two teams that are in on him. But he could go anywhere. I mean, and even his agent was saying that, a mid-market team might make a little more sense as he transitions into the American culture. Is he hinting at San Diego, or is he talking about the Milwaukee Brewers or something? I don't know. All I know is the Dodgers have their foot on the gas pedal, and they are putting everything in. They're going for it. And I love the fact that Mookie's playing short. I think that's so cool that you can move him around from, he could be a Gold Glover in the outfield and be a great shortstop. I mean, what a great athlete. What a great team player.
Yep.
So I would kill to have that guy on our team.
So that's where we are with the Dodgers. Feel free. If you have a statement, if you want to sound off, if you want to pile on, hey, we're here. That's why we're doing this podcast. Last I checked, this podcast belongs to you when we're done telling you what we think. Third topic on the table.
The Angels.
Oh, geez. Why would you do that? Why would you put that headline there? Angels have been unbelievably active in the offseason so far. That's a bit insulting. Are they changing the chairs on the Titanic? Might be true, though, because they haven't done anything of significance aside from getting Yusei Kikuchi, frontline starter, big strikeout pitcher from Houston. I don't think they're done dealing. The Angels are talking to Yankee free agent, second baseman, third baseman, Gleyber Torres. Angels just signed a former first-round draft pick of the Washington Nationals, guy that marched through the farm system but got to the show and couldn't hit, has yet to prove it. His name is Carter Kieboom, former number one pick. He's only hit 199. We talked about Dakota Hudson, whom they just signed. The was a 16-game winner with the Cardinals, but just hadn't been the same pitcher since arm injuries. And I'm not quite sure what they're going to get out of this, but they're shopping Taylor Ward, hit 25 home runs playing left field for them. They don't have much of an outfield right now. They don't have Mike Trout out there. But Taylor Ward is being shopped maybe for a third baseman or for another pitcher. So I don't think the Angels are done dealing. That's an insult to say chairs on the Titanic. Oh, that's right. They lost 99 games. They won in the bleeping playoffs in a decade. It is like chairs on the Titanic. So they're moving things. They're making all these deals, but nothing of significance at all. John?
What is Artie Moreno's strategy? I mean, he's clearly not trying to win. Is he just putting up some, like you say, number 4 starter types, just sort of meh players just to kind of have a semi-competitive team and sort of kind of make his fan base happy? Or is he strictly limited by numbers, or is he just trying to grind every drop of profit out of that team? I don't understand what he's trying to accomplish.
Did you ever go shopping and on the intercom, they say, aisle 3, clean up, aisle 3, clean up? That's Artie Moreno on aisle 3 at Dollar General. That's where he's getting his players, Dollar General.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Now, I will say this. It's great that Kevin Newman's coming back to Southern California. He's a Poway guy. I love that guy. So there's hope. There's some promising players there. But, yeah, I mean, it just feels so deadpan. No excitement.
Dollar General, cleanup, aisle 3, Artie Moreno's aisle. Feel free to jump on board if there are any Angel fans left out there. We go from that, because we're talking a ton of baseball here in the first half of our Thursday podcast. Next topic, winners, losers.
Winners, losers. We got the Yankees and the Mets at the top of the list.
Let's start with the Mets. The Soto deal is now official. The press conference underway today. Plain and simple, he just got the payday he wanted. Hell, if they had a team in the Ukraine that was willing to offer him the money, Scott Boras probably would have put him in Ukraine. We'll be interested to see what Soto does at Citi Field. The pressure is really on him now. You know, he was surrounded by pretty good people. Yankees got to the World Series. He's not surrounded by that same roster across town with the New York Mets. Now, they're not done. The rumor is that they're meeting now with Sean Manaea to bring him back. But, John, New York Mets pitching staff as of lunchtime today. Kodai Senga just signed Frankie Montas, just signed Clayton Holmes, and left-hander David Peterson. That is the Yankee rotation that Soto is going to have to save by hitting a ton of home runs.
So the Mets rotation.
I'm sorry, the Mets rotation. That's a far cry from the rotation that he went and swung for on behalf of the New York Yankees, is it not? Ooh.
They're just going to hit bombs, man. Hit bombs at Citi Field.
He's going to have to hit bombs because look at that pitching staff I just told you. So that's a question. Mets won in the Soto challenge, but they're not done yet. Yankees. I told you last Monday with the Soto situation, there would be a plan B immediately. Well, they started. Max Fried, 8 years, $218 million, joins a rotation headed by Garrett Cole, backed up by Carlos Rodon, who had a great year, has the Rookie of the Year, Luis Gil, and now they add Max Fried. And they're not done. Yankees are talking to Houston about a deal for Kyle Tucker. That would be a trade. They're talking to Arizona's first baseman, Christian Walker, about a free agent contract. I think that deal could happen. Third one, Giants. Willie Adames, shortstop. Buster Posey pulls the trigger on his first acquisition. Big-time player, power hitter. Did have a big bounce-back season in Milwaukee. And now the rumor, they're about to move on Corbin Burnes.
Hey.
Now, Buster Posey pulls this off, and he gets the ace of the Orioles staff on top of getting the star shortstop from Milwaukee. That's a hell of an acquisition. Price tag, 7 years, $210. Now, Corbin Burnes has also got an offer from Toronto, and Baltimore's trying hard to bring him back, though I was told Baltimore does not want to give any pitcher a 7-year contract. So the Giants are a winner and could grow even more. And then there's the Red Sox. The trade is done. Garrett Crochet comes from the White Sox. The thing that really stunned me when this deal was finalized on Wednesday afternoon, Boston did not give up any of their core top young players. They still have Will Abreu, the young outfielder. They still have Casas, the power hitting first baseman. Now, they're not done. Boston was talking to San Diego about Dylan Cease. Boston is talking to Seattle about their fourth starting pitcher, Brian Wu, who's pretty good. And Boston, as a backup, has Walker Buehler, who they just brought in to talk to the week of the winter baseball meetings. So Boston's not done yet. So, John, Mets, Yankees, Giants, Red Sox, you're at the podium.
Okay, let's talk Yankees. Why would the Astros trade Kyle Tucker? That's a great player. He's still quite young, isn't he?
Walk free agent.
Oh, so how many years? He's got one left?
This is free agent season, and he sees what everybody else is getting. He's not going to talk to the Astros about an extension.
Interesting.
And Jim Crane does not want to be held hostage and lose the guy, get nothing in return. So if he could shop him to the Yankees, and that's the biggest rumor, and get 3 players, a couple who could play immediately at much lower prices, and it allows Houston to do other things in free agency. It's too bad that Tucker's really like that. Now, he got hurt. He missed a middle chunk of the season, a large amount of the season, but that's why they're moving him.
And then the other player I want to talk about is Corbin Burnes, because, I mean, dude's a good pitcher,
Yep.
but is he an elite pitcher? I mean, would you have him as one of the top 10 pitchers in baseball? I know he's good, but is he that good?
I think he's upper echelon.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, the price on pitching has gone through the roof. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So if you're going to pay Corbin Burns $30 million per year to be a starter, that makes sense. When you got guys like Nick Martinez getting $21 million, you kidding me?
Good for Nick.
Well, I know good for Nick, and I like
but
Nick.
The market is crazy right
the
now.
market's absolutely gone nuts, which is important if you're in a medium market, a smaller market, a market where owners don't want to spend more money, aka Padres. Geez, don't you wish you'd kept some of the pitching you traded away? Because younger pitching now is kind of gold standard. You can afford younger pitching, whereas if you go out on the street corner and try to talk to Corbin Burns, that's a $30 million a year phone call.
Yeah, but it's like the bird in the hand versus two in the bush. You got to plan for today. I mean, you could keep stockpiling, and have the greatest farm system on the planet, but you're still going to be doomed to third or fourth place. I mean, the Padres played that game for a long time. Now they seem to have both going on. Every team needs to be able to do that, have elite players and still grow it. So I don't know. I think the Giants, I like that they're making an investment in some star players. The fans deserve that.
And then you got the Red Sox, and I guess I was rocked that they did not move any of their top young players. They moved lower minor leaguers, AAA, AA, Class A guys to get Garrett Crochet. So Boston still got resources and assets to make another trade.
Yeah. Well, Boston's been sort of laying low, haven't they?
Well, they've been down on the floor for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Postseason failure is not acceptable in the state of New England and the Red Sox nation.
So you kind of have to, as your buddy Jim Rome used to say, you have to go down in the basement and suck on batteries for a couple of years and then come back refreshed.
So that's where we are. Those are the ones that I think did pretty well, winners, and obviously some losers. We got one more baseball topic on the table before we get to halftime.
Yeah, so you want to go right to the big board?
Let's do this big board.
There it is.
Who's available? Alex Bregman, Houston. Astros offered him a ton of money, something like $25 to $28 million per year. He said no. He is being shopped out there. Blue Jays are still desperate to make a deal. The Yankees are in the running for Bregman. And obviously the Astros are going to try with a second deal. Second name on the left, we talked about Corbin Burns. Huge question as to where he's going to go. San Francisco, Toronto seem to be the top two locations. Third one is the Japanese sensation Sasaki. He can start meeting with teams. We think meetings are going to begin individually on Monday. Sasaki is in Los Angeles, just arrived. His agent, Joel Wolf, is there with him. Jack Flaherty of the Dodgers. He's gotten phone calls. He has not been offered yet. Red Sox are in the running. The Tigers have talked about bringing Flaherty back. And obviously the Dodgers still have a shot at him. Walker Buehler, same set of circumstances, same group of people. I was told there's 6 offers for Buehler. I was told he wants $15 million per year on a multi-year deal. Some of the clubs are offering him 15 years for 1 year to make sure that he's completely the old Walker Buehler. Tanner Scott, the Padre Marlins closer, setup guy, price tag is $8 million or north of that. He's going to get signed by somebody. I'm just not quite sure where he's going to wind up. Column on the right are the guys tradable. Nolan Arenado has a no-trade clause. Sources say he has approved a trade to 6 different teams, including the Yankees, the Mets, the Dodgers, the Red Sox. Now, what would Boston give up to get a 34-year-old guy who can probably put dents into the green monster? That'll be interesting to see where Arenado winds up. The only problem is 34 and 35 million owed to Arenado the next 2 seasons. We talked about Kyle Tucker. The names that I've heard to me don't make sense, but the Yankees evidently are willing to trade once promising outfielder Spencer Jones, as well as infielder George Lombard and a pitcher. Now, Jones has not proven to hit the major league level. Lombard has yet to get to the major leagues. I don't know that that's fair value for Kyle Tucker, who's about to become a free agent. Surprise name, Cody Bellinger. He's owed 2 years, $54 million, and the Cubs are trying to trade him. He's a Scott Boras client. He invoked the I'm staying here option to collect $27 million. Now, he had a pretty decent season last year as both a center fielder and an outfielder. I hear he's the fallback option if the Yankees don't get Tucker from the Houston Astros. Like I said, he's got 2 years, $54 million left. Alec Boehm, Philadelphia Phillies. I hear his name everywhere. Kansas City. The latest I've heard is Seattle. Problem is, everybody that's talking to the guys in the 206 area code in the Pacific Northwest want one of the Mariners' top young pitchers. And Jerry DiPoto, the general manager, says, not on my watch. The one name that could be traded would be Luis Castillo, veteran starter in Seattle. Christian Walker, hot name. Now he's an unrestricted free agent. Yankees. Arizona has reopened talks to get Walker to stay, but I think he might be a Yankee by the end of the weekend. And then Paul Goldschmidt, legendary Cardinal, really tailed off offensively last season. I heard the Tigers have made him an offer. He's waiting to see what else is coming. He did get a call about coming back to Arizona, where he starred. So if Christian Walker vacates Arizona to go to Yankee Stadium, Goldschmidt might be a short-term rental for him. So, John, there's an awful lot of talent out there. You know, as A.J. Preller would say, we laid the groundwork. There's still a lot of guys to go get. Your reaction?
Well, there's so many names. Now, why in the heck would the Phillies want to trade Bohm? I mean, he's a really talented player. He's very young, or is it he's got another year until he's a free agent?
That, and they think he's hit his ceiling.
Really?
And they want to change some chemistry things. They were very disenchanted with the way the season ended, and ended really badly. Last I checked, dudes went out of the playoffs the first week of October.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So they want to change some things there.
But isn't it weird also to see Goldschmidt and Arenado on that list?
Yeah, at the same time, but they're the same age factor, and they both kind of dropped off too simultaneously.
Yeah, Goldschmidt has always been sort of stealth, really good.
Yep.
You know, kind of tucked away,
solid.
You know, in Arizona or in St. Louis. But yeah, it's a wild. It's wild what's going on right now. Have the winter meetings concluded, or are they're still cooking?
No, they're done. Everybody left Wednesday night.
Okay.
So everybody's back home. Groundwork's been laid. We'll see what trades. But you know, pop that list up there. Man, there's a lot of good players on that board. Now, can you afford those good players? Don't you wish you were a left-handed pitcher?
Oh, God.
You know, the best things, John, the best things in life are free. Mediocre left-handed pitching will get you $21 million a year. You should have been a left-handed pitcher.
I agree completely.
It wouldn't be here talking sports with me.
No.
So we'll see in the next week or so, there'll be another flurry, another set of dominoes are going to fall. Hey, we get to halftime. Hope you're enjoying our Thursday podcast as we go towards a great sports weekend. Just a reminder, Fans Forum. When we're done, we open up the chat box. If you've never, ever been in the Fans Forum, you got to jump in. Just write us a quick question, make a statement. We'll give you some answers, give you some opinions. Fans Forum coming up right at the end of this podcast. Also, if you like sports, I invite you to check my website. There's a full summary of the winter baseball meetings plus everything else on my website, leehacksawhamilton.com. It's right there. When we're done with the podcast, punch it up, take a look, read. It's there every morning. It's absolutely free. When you go to the website, there's a big orange box right on the upper right-hand side of the homepage. Fill that out, become part of Hacksaw's Insiders Group. You'll get special emails and offers and things that we're doing. We love social media. I want you to follow me on Twitter, on X. It's at Hacksaw1090. Hit the follow button at Hacksaw1090. This guy does it all hours of the night, and then texts me back and says, I can't believe you put that up on Twitter X. I said, yes, I did put it up on Twitter and X. I want you to follow and want you to share. Tell everybody what you do Mondays and Thursdays. We want you to subscribe. That way you'll get the alert every time we put something new on the YouTube channel, and we do a lot of stuff. So all things social media, hell, we're everywhere. And again, for the new people, John, would you just remind them how Fans Forum works?
Oh my God! People are piling in, especially Dodger.
Pile in or pile on?
Well, yeah, both. And Dodger fans are just kicking the Padres on the street corner. We got comments here from RM and PJ and Andrea and Carlos and Angel and Double X Revolution, Mesa Stormy. I mean, Kenny's water bottle is in here. We got a $1.99 gift from MM Forever. I mean, everybody's piling in here. First Life. So if you got questions or comments, I see Johnny on the list. I said Carlos, Zane is on there, Johnny. There's a lot of smack talking going on. So if you got a question or comment for Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Drop it in the live chat. We'll try to get to everybody, and we'll fit you in on Fans Forum at the conclusion of Hacksaw's headlines.
And this podcast, as we get to halftime, is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. You know, we have talked extensively over the 17 months we've been on the air what DIXIELINE can offer you in terms of materials, ideas, etc. Christmas shopping season here. You're looking for something different. Gift cards. Now, that's a pretty good idea. Stocking stuffer, DIXIELINE Lumber gift cards for the guy in the house.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, you're putting off your shopping. You haven't figured out what to get your dad or your uncle. You just roll into one of the 9 DIXIELINE locations. They're all over San Diego County, including now in Dana Point. Pick up a gift card. You can probably get some other stuff there. Fix up your house. It's all good.
DIXIELINE Lumber. Been in business for 100 years here in San Diego. 9 locations to serve you. These are the people that we do business with. These are the people that we recommend you make contact with. We go to the second half of our podcast, and we go from baseball to football. And boy, there's a lot to talk about on the field and even more to talk about at this hour off the field, John.
Yeah, so we got coaching changes. We're hearing this news about Belichick. Did he sign in North Carolina?
Press conference today, showed up wearing Tar Heel blue gear. Bill Belichick not going back to the NFL. Bill Belichick, 5 years, $50 million to run the entire football operation. He answers to himself in Chapel Hill. Head football coach. He immediately hires longtime NFL general manager Mike Lombardi. Mike Lombardi will be his GM at North Carolina, run the transfer portal, the NIL, and the business side of operation. The question, why would he do this, never having been in college football at least for a quarter of a century? He grew up, obviously. His dad was at Annapolis at Navy. His dad was an assistant in North Carolina. He's been on those campuses, but why would he do this? End of the day, I was told he was offended by the way he was treated last offseason after they announced the separation from the Patriots after the 6 Super Bowl rings and the unbelievable number of victories, that he was offended that he only got one interview. And then he was told in the interview, you can't be the general manager, you can only be the football coach. And nobody else called him. And evidently, he's been bothered this season while he's done his media TV gig that not a lot of people have been real positive about Bill Belichick being a candidate to interview for one of these openings. It's coming up or is currently open in the NFL. I think his reputation preceded him, and I think that's the big issue. His reputation was he was a winner. His reputation was, though, that he was a power broker. And his reputation is he had to have everything done his way, his whims, his right to make every decision. And then, in the aftermath of Belichick and all things New England, he left behind a wreckage of 7-23. That's the Patriots' wreckage and their record since he vacated New England. And since the Tom Brady days, New England has seen absolutely nothing positive happen. So you got Belichick, North Carolina. The other piece of the story is New England rumblings that they're going to fire Jared Mayo after 1 year on the job, that this is misery. They're 4-13 last year. They could be 4-13 this year. They might not win a game the rest of the season. And the report is that they want to talk to the guy on the left, Mike Vrabel. Legendary coach, did a great job at Tennessee. Vrabel wants back in. He's been a consultant this year around the league for teams looking for ideas on defense. Vrabel to New England sure looks like it could happen. By the way, Vrabel played there.
Yeah.
Vrabel was very much respected by Robert Kraft. Vrabel was a fan favorite of Bill Belichick, of the departed coach. So, John, send his mail to the 714 area code. or 704 area code.
The area code expert. That's you.
Yeah. Charlotte, North Carolina. Chapel Hill, North Carolina. You shocked Belichick would do this?
I am. I mean, because I figured there was no way he was going to go back to college, because he wanted the NFL gig. But maybe to your point, all the doors are closed in the NFL. There's only 30 jobs, for heaven's sake. But it is kind of cool that North Carolina, you think of them as a basketball school, and they're saying, hey, we're going to be big in both sports. And they're just going all in on Belichick. But he's going to be there on a 5-year deal. That'll take him into his late 70s, right?
He's 72 right now.
72. Wow. I mean, the other angle to this is, Bill Belichick likes the young ladies, and there's going to be a lot of students there. So hopefully he can stay in his lane, and be a well-behaved citizen. But I don't know. I know if I'm a football player, do I want to play for Belichick, or do I want to go to one of the hot, college coaches like Dan Lanning?
Here's the issue. The culture of the NFL. Belichick did an interview early in the week. He said, we're going to devise a culture at Chapel Hill that'll be like an NFL franchise. We will teach these players. We will coach these players. We will guide these players. We'll give them the skills. We'll give them the ability to make the right decisions, and we'll prepare them if they're good enough to play pro football, if not good enough to go into corporate America once they get their degree. So that's the flag that they're going to present to every recruit. This man's this accomplishments, he'll get you ready for life in football or life after football. That's interesting. The second thing to pay attention to is everybody is looking at what happened in Boulder, Colorado, what Neon Deion did, and what the success that Colorado football's had. And they're of the opinion that if this guy could come from the NFL, granted he's a different character, if he could come and have that success, maybe this guy, with his philosophy and all his life's experiences, doing it his way, could be equally successful at North Carolina. Now, that being said, I don't think the hoodie's going to show up wearing sunglasses or bling or cowboy hats.
Right.
But Bill Belichick running all things North Carolina.
It's the other name we talked about a few weeks ago was Ray Lewis.
Yes.
And that he was thinking about going back. Was it FAU? I think he wanted to be the coach of.
All those jobs have been filled. He didn't get an interview, but maybe that's because he's not been involved in any coaching infrastructure anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. You can't just take a guy like that and just plop him in. I do like the fact that Belichick's bringing in, the general manager to run all the NIL transfer portal stuff, because that's complicated. And you're constantly negotiating deals with your current players, trying to keep them and also trying to attract new ones. There'd be no way Belichick could do that and also run the offense and defense of the team.
And, the other factor, in the NFL, I'm going to look at all these free agents. You are a street free agent. Maybe you make my team as a special teams player, and I can bring you in and I can work you out and I can sign you. Or if I don't like that guy, I can release him and put you on the practice squad and then get you on the active roster. College football is not that way. Your players are your players. When you go to camp, this is what you have. You're not going to be trading anybody. You're not going to be cutting anybody. There's no free agents coming in off the street, off the waiver wire. So that's a different culture. The other factor, being an NFL player is like a 12-hour-a-day commitment in that building, meetings, treatment, staff meetings, position meetings, videos. In the NCAA rule book, page 11, right beneath the coffee stain, these are the number of hours you can have access to your players. And that's all there is. So that whole methodology of how do I teach them and how do I get them ingrained, their hours are much more limited because these kids are across campus doing academic things too. So that's going to be different for Belichick than the Belichick way in Foxborough was, you're going to be here at 6 a.m., pal. And if we cut you loose by 4:30 in the afternoon, good. But you're going to be here. You can't have that in college football.
Well, they're going to still have very demanding schedules, yes, right? And you don't show up late for a Bill Belichick meeting. If you're on time, you're late. So, I'm just fascinated about how North Carolina is really just going all in, on Bill Belichick. And to me, like you say, he answers to nobody. I mean, clearly answers to the president of the university, and I would assume the AD.
The board of trustees was split as to whether to do this, but they got it done.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. So this could turn into a great thing in college football, or it could be just a complete disaster.
Well, everybody saw it happen in Boulder with Coach Prime. So,
but Coach Prime brings some electricity. Yeah. He brings some personality. Bill Belichick is just like an old grumbling man. No offense.
Did you read my column that I wrote today?
Yeah. Tobacco Road.
Belichick on Tobacco Road. Mm-hmm. If you're a football fan, you got to go to my website. It's posted there right now. You will love it. Or maybe you'll hate it. I don't know. But I wrote a full-length column about the hoodie going to Tobacco Road. So check that out, my one man's opinion column on the website. John, we got so much else football here to talk about. Let's talk about the NFL.
The NFL, week 15, kind of in the home stretch here.
Yeah, big game. Big Thursday night game. I'll be back with the sub sandwiches at 5:15 tonight to watch the game with you.
Okay.
Rams, 49ers. Losers pretty much done. What a job that Sean McVay has done. Rams are 7-6. I guess the burning question I have, is there any gas left in the tank for the defense? He's got those kids playing so hard, and they played at a different level last weekend when they beat the Buffalo Bills. But, man, you run out of emotion, you run out of physicality somewhere along the line, and hell, we're in week 15 of the season. So the burning question is, can they crank this sucker up again and do it to the 49ers? Now, San Francisco, they're limping in. They are so beat up. Now there's internal strife with another one of your friends, a diva wide receiver, Deebo Samuel. Now, Brock Purdy is back. They don't have their top three running backs. They're on the IR. I mean, the 49ers are just battered. So can the Rams do this again? Thursday night football, Rams, 49ers. Chargers-Tampa. Justin Herbert took a fierce beating in the game last week when they lost. Now he's hurt. Now he's got 3 injuries. He's dealing with swelling in his knee from a hit. He's dealing with swelling in the thigh from a helmet hit. And he's dealing with a re-injured ankle. Missed practice yesterday, limited practice today. This is not good because the Bolts need him at full efficiency. Now, they're going to play Tampa. Baker Mayfield's having a phenomenal year, but he's in a tough spot. They got so many injuries in Tampa Bay. This BUCS defense is going to have to bail Baker Mayfield out this week, and the defense is going to have to throttle down on Justin Herbert. But if Herbert can't move the pocket, and he's taken so many hits, and he's been sacked, I think, 38 times now. I mean, the Chargers should win against Tampa, but maybe they don't win against Tampa because Baker Mayfield can go off, and the BUCS defense can be pretty doggone tough. Huge game, Detroit. Buffalo trying to pick up the pieces after getting beat. They go play the Lions there. Home field advantage kind of starting to slip away from the Buffalo Bills, despite the fact they, had beaten Kansas City. Can Josh Allen reduplicate a 6-touchdown performance? This Lions defense they can, at home, they do get amped up. So Bills, Detroit Sunday will be something. Steelers, Eagles. How the hell is Pittsburgh 10-3? I mean, it just boggles my mind when you look at that roster on the offensive side. How is that possible? They're not going to have George Pickens. He's got a hamstring problem that's not getting any better. They still have, as hard as Russell Wilson plays, they have a pedestrian offense, and the Eagles are just blazing hot. Holy cow, offensively, they're just doing so many things, and they got so many young guys who can run on the defensive side of the football. I think the Steelers lose the battle in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Green Bay, Seattle, big game. Seahawks in first place, NFC West. You got Jordan Love, you got Aaron Jones. I think's got to be able to run the football. They got to find a way to keep Geno Smith off the field because he's over 3,000 yards in total offense with the Seahawks. So huge, important games this weekend. John, just give me an opinion on the job that McVay has done to take the Rams to 7-6, considering how bad it was at the start of the season. How worried are you about Justin Herbert's health? And then, boy, these are the 3 big games here.
Yeah, I mean, you were saying that season was over, like I think in late September for the Rams. And now suddenly, are they at the top of the division? Are they tied for first?
No, they're 7-6, a game back of Seattle.
And they're 8-5.
Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, they're right there. I mean, it's incredible what they've been able to pull off. And I love that Nakua's coming back. And I mean, but the Niners they're probably playing in Santa Clara tonight, yes. Right? So the Niners need to prove themselves that they're still legit. And I just don't know if they've got it. But I look at these other games. it's the Detroit Lions fans, they got to be thinking that this is finally their year, don't you think?
And they played a lot of big boy games already this season.
Yeah. And then, you figure you got, the Niners are having a down year, and the path is wide open for them. I just hope they don't just crumble like they have done in the past.
Fascinating today. I dabble on the internet in the morning before we come do the podcast, and I saw on social media video of Western New York, 2 to 3 feet of snow. The Bills canceled practice because the players couldn't get to the facility. So it was a limited practice yesterday, no practice today. The Bills tonight are doing Zoom meetings to install their playbook. All the players are snowed in at home. I saw pictures of the New York Thruway near Orchard Park. The snowdrifts were 2 feet and trucks are jackknifed everywhere. So poor Bills. They don't know if they get the players to the facility tomorrow for the Friday practice, and then they go to Detroit on Saturday. So they may go in here with no actual on-field practice time to run this playbook that they want to run specifically for the Detroit Lions game. So a little bit of a disadvantage, aren't you? I don't want to hear you bitching about how cold it is at 7 a.m. in the morning in San Diego. Take a look at the video in Buffalo. You won't believe it.
People in Buffalo are like, they're a different breed entirely. They love all that. They love the snow. They want it to be cold, and they're going to get out there and get drunk in the stadium. I'm still surprised they didn't build a dome out there. I mean, it's insane how much snow that Western New York gets. That every year it seems it's like this.
It's called lake effect, pal.
Yeah.
I live there. I know.
Well, yeah, you were on Lake Erie in Cleveland. Yeah, I mean, you got hammered out there.
Lake effect snow. So it's the big games in the NFL. Do you got an opinion on one of these teams? One of the topics we've talked about at Fans Forum chat box is open. It's going to be yours very shortly. Only one game this weekend in college football in Division I. Oh, this is so good.
Yeah, Army-Navy. This is always a classic.
In America, we have great sporting traditions. Kentucky Derby, Masters, World Series, Super Bowl. This one should go right up there with it. This thing started in 1890. This is the 125th game of Army-Navy. But this just has a real different feel to it. You got Army is 11-1. You got Navy that is 8-3 on the season.
Hey.
Army's got a quarterback, Bryson Daly. He's got over 2,300 all-purpose yards. He's accounted for 37 touchdowns. Of course, they run the triple option and the wishbone, so he does a lot of things. Navy's got a throwing quarterback that they've really never, ever had before. His name is Blaine Horvath. He's thrown for over 1,100 yards, and he runs the football. He's accounted for 24 touchdowns. But the thing that's fascinating to me, if you look at that picture out on the field, that is the parade of the cadets and the midshipmen that go out and line up on the field before the game actually starts. It is so cool to experience. And the memories of this thing, this thing is going to be played in Maryland this weekend. It's been played at Yankee Stadium, at the Polo Grounds, at Soldier Field. Preponderance of the games have been played in Philadelphia, have also played in Annapolis and at West Point. And all are their memories of stars who played Army versus Navy. If you're a football fan, you must know who Joe Bellino is. You must know who Roger Staubach is. Back in the day, do you ever remember hearing about Glenn Davis, Bob Anderson, the lonesome end, and Raleigh Stitchway, the quarterback? Those are all the stars of Army versus Navy going way back into college football. The parade of the cadets and the midshipmen, the presentation of the colors. My God, your heart stops. It's in your throat. You get so emotional. It's really a slice of Americana. And then when they're done, the players salute all the cadets and all the midshipmen who are in full gear in the stadium. It is the coolest experience. It's not only the 125th year of a historic rivalry. It's about pride. It's about the meaning of their careers for these young men. It's not just about the game, which is really damn important. It's about their future and their lives and what they're putting on the line for Americans, because these kids are all going to be commissioned officers. And guys that played in it never forget it. And they will break away from the telecast on Saturday, and they will go to Iraq and they'll go to other places where our men and women are deployed, and they'll be sitting there watching the game, either rooting Army or rooting for Navy. It is such a cool experience. And one very emotional story I'll tell you about my experience. Now, I came from military family. We watched it as a kid growing up. I watched it all the time because my dad was Navy. Two of my brothers are Army. My whole family, extended family, fought in World War II. A couple died, 7 in all survived. Bobby Ross coached at Army after he left the NFL, had been with the Chargers, went to Detroit, wound up at West Point. He told me a story. He didn't show me the letter, but he told me a story the last year he was at West Point. He was there for 3 years and had to step aside because of health issues. He got a letter from a commissioned officer, I think it was in Iraq, who maybe a week and a half before the game, who saluted Coach Ross for his accomplishments at Georgia Tech and what he did in the NFL. And he just put into words what Army versus Navy meant to him. Bobby, 2 days before the game, was notified that commissioned officer who had written that letter had died in combat.
Oh.
So he read the letter to his players at dinner the night before the game. I guess wasn't a dry eye in the whole place. So this is more than a football game. This has such meaning. And do you know, I mean, these two teams have gone through some phenomenal seasons. 1940s, Army and Navy were national powers in the ratings every week. Biggest game was Army versus Notre Dame at Yankee Stadium. Army and Navy has always been a big game. Do you know that this is the first time since 1960? That was a few third downs ago.
Yeah.
Since 1960, that Army and Navy were both rated simultaneously in the top 20 in the AP poll. And both have had great seasons, 11-1, 8-3. So this game means so much. And you may not be an Army Navy fan, but you got to tune into the pregame just to experience it and understand what it is. It is such a cool thing. And I went to one at West Point. And I walked across the campus, and then you walk down to Michi Stadium, and you get down this long sidewalk, and right there is the stadium, and right beyond the stadium is the Hudson River. I mean, it is so cool. So anyhow, that's my story about Army versus Navy. That is the game to watch. Just pay attention to the pregame ceremonies. I grant you, John, you won't forget it.
I love how much you love this, because you're a big history buff, a military buff, your family, you've told me stories. You've shown me pictures. Was it your father or your brother that was on the ship when the Japanese surrendered in World War II?
That's my uncle.
Your uncle, excuse me. Pardon me.
My father's brother. Journalist.
And he was a journalist. Yeah. I mean, you've shared so many stories with me about your family and in the military. And I get it. Well, it means so much to you and so much to people all across America and the troops serving all around the globe. It's odd for me. I don't come from a military family, so I don't have that kind of connection to it. And so for the Army Navy game, for me, it's just been kind of an interesting curiosity because it's usually never one of the top teams, in the rankings. Every once in a while they're up there. But, I'm going to make a point of watching it, I especially the pregame, because because of you, I really watched the pregame and the pageantry of the Indy 500, and I love that.
Mm-hmm.
It was really special. I need to do the same thing for Army Navy.
Yeah, you see the cadets and the midshipmen march in and then line up on the field like that picture displays, and then you see the anthem and the colors and the flyover. Oh, it is so cool. It is so different, and to understand what those players are doing with their lives. And this football game is really important in your West Point or your Indianapolis. But their lives after they get commissioned is equally important. And then you'll see shots in the stands of the players during the cadets and the middies during the game. They're going crazy.
Yeah.
It is like I say, slice of Americana. At least it should be equal to what I think is the Masters and the U.S. Open and the Indy 500 and World Series and the Super Bowl. It's just cool.
Well, they seem to have a weekend really just focused on this? Because is there any other college football games going on?
Just the small college playoffs. This is a standalone event.
Yeah, that makes it special.
That really is. Army, Navy. I don't know. You come from military background. What was your experience? Feel free. Jump on board, Fans Forum. We got other college football notes. Man, we got so many topics on the table. We'll probably be here till Saturday morning. Go ahead.
Transfer portal. I see San Diego State at the top of the list.
Yeah, boys, a lot of stuff going on at San Diego State. Sean Lewis confirmed this week, a year ago when he took the job, if you came to him and said, I wish to enter the transfer portal, he'd say, thank you. You're no longer part of the program. Good luck to you. He's changed his mind. He is now willing to talk further to players. He's tried to lure players back. He's just brought back Jordan Napier, the top wide receiver who was going into the portal. He changed his mind. Now we got word on Thursday morning that Danny O'Neal, the freshman quarterback, and this really bothers me, is evidently going into the portal. I've been able to check, but I've not seen his name in the areas that I go to get confirmation on the portal yet. But I got to believe it's happening because guys are getting tampered with by everybody. If that happens, I'm disappointed for Sean Lewis because he made a commitment to develop this kid. I think this kid owes this head coach a longer stay at San Diego State. Now, it may well be this is all finances. And somebody who's representing Danny O'Neal may come back and say, this school has offered him this financially under the NIL banner. Can you upgrade it? Maybe they'll do that. Maybe they won't. I don't know. But I was kind of stunned when I got word that Danny O'Neal was headed to the transfer portal. San Diego State has started something new to raise more money. I wish them well. I hope it would work. I don't know that it can. They've started what's called Link 619. It's under the Aztec link to raise money for NIL. They're asking fans, friends, alums, former players, $619 each. They're trying to raise over 1,000 commitments for $619 each to help fund Aztec football. I don't know what kind of response they're going to get because the fans, friends, and alums don't go to the games now. And even with the advent of Aztec fast offense and what Sean Lewis had hoped to bring, nobody showed up. At the end of the season, they had their last two home games. They drew just over 12,700, just over 10,700, their last two home games. I just don't know what kind of response they're going to get from the alums who just don't seem to have put their arms around Aztec football. So we got that. Think about this. If Danny O'Neal exits, they'd already lost the backup quarterback, Javance Johnson. They lost the third quarterback, A.J. Duffy, who never got on the field and got suspended at the end of the season and is gone. That's all three top quarterbacks are gone. Now, they're active. I've been told there's a running back from Louisville, pretty good player, is coming on campus to visit tomorrow. I'm told that they're making contact with other veteran quarterbacks to try to get somebody in here. But if he has to go back to square one with brand new quarterbacks because the top three guys are gone, I just don't know how they're going to make any progress. So we got that situation. Meanwhile, Colorado State. Now, we thought a couple weeks ago when Sean Lewis started talking about we're getting tampered with, we need to have compensation from the Division I schools to take our best players. Jay Norville lost his mind in Fort Collins this week. He held a press conference just to talk about the transfer portal. And the Colorado State coach, who's pretty verbose, he tells you what he thinks, whether you like it or not. Jay Norvell went public and said, I have confirmation that my top 26 players have been tampered with by player agents who are promising them deals if they'll transfer out of Colorado State. He says, this is not how the NIL and the NCAA is supposed to operate. And he said, these people are coming. They came after his quarterback, Braden Nicolosi. And Nicolosi last year was tampered with and stayed at Colorado State, had another great season. And they came after him again. And they offered Nicolosi money and said, if I can get you $100,000, let me be your representative, and I'll take that offer, and I'll go somewhere else and see if I can get you 150 or 200. And Jay Norville, the coach, said agents are charging these kids 10 to 15% of the NIL money. He says if you went to the NFL as a quarterback, the agent only gets 3%. He says that what's going on right now in college football is so out of control and so unconscionable, taking kids playing one offer off the next offer and then taking a big chunk of that kid's money. He says it's unconscionable. So he was really upset. I saw a chunk of the press conference and said, wow, Yeah, that was pretty strong stuff. Speaking of that, Southern Cal, Lincoln Riley, national reputation, 8-5 last year, 6-6 this year, going to a substandard bowl game. It's not USC football. He's got 12 guys in the portal already. USC has lost its quarterback, Miller Moss, has lost its top returning running back, Quinn Joyner, lost one of its top receivers, Deuce Robinson, just lost Bear Alexander, the star defensive tackle. Top 3 offensive linemen have all gone to the portal. Nobody wants to play for Lincoln Riley, or maybe it's just I'm taking the best money I can get and go. 12 from USC are gone. UCLA has lost the quarterback that was supposed to be their starter this coming year, Justice Miller. They lost their top running back, TJ Harden. They just lost their top 2 receivers, Lugo and JT Sturdivant. UCLA's got 13 guys in the portal. This thing is so out of control. And doesn't seem to be any resolution to stop the bleeding in college athletics. One really good note, Holiday Bowl. They always get good matchups. This game is going to take 4.5 hours to play. Syracuse versus Washington State. It's going to be a really dynamic Holiday Bowl right after Christmas. Syracuse has the leading passer in the country in terms of yardage, Kyle McLeod, former Ohio State starter. He throws for a ton. McLeod comes, leads the Syracuse Orange in here. Washington State's got their do-everything, run-around, throw the football quarterback, Johnny Mateer. We saw him when Washington State beat San Diego State. So, hey, congrats to the Holiday Bowl people. They find a way to bring 2 vibrant teams offensively in here. That's the calling card of what the Holiday Bowl is. So, John, you're going to solve the Aztecs' problems. You want to talk about SC, UCLA? Go ahead.
Well, I want to talk about the Holiday Bowl first. I'm curious to see how the Holiday Bowl and the other sort of mid-tier bowl games do in the new world of a 12-team playoff. And are they going to be able to fill up, Snapdragon Stadium? Are the fans going to travel? Will people care? I mean, the players and their families will care, but I mean, what do you think?
Pacific Northwest, Washington State's got hardcore fans that they show up in the cold and the snow and all that. So I think there'll be a bunch from Washington State coming down here. And as always, San Diegans will go because that's tradition here, and you always see a good show. And where would you rather be at this hour with lake effect snow in Syracuse, New York?
Yeah.
Area code 315.
Yeah, the Syracuse people want to get the hell out of there.
Yeah. Now? Is it time to go now?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So I hope to draw the 32,000. This is going to be a dynamic matchup, and they're on TV by themselves. There's nobody against them.
Oh,
and you got Kyle McLeod, who he throws the hell out of the ball, and Washington State's quarterback, Johnny Mateer, he's just all over the place. He's kind of a fun watch.
The other comment is that the college players are getting agents. I didn't know that. That was a new piece of information.
Representatives, lawyers, and agents.
Yeah.
Oh, it's terrible. This thing is, what's your take if Sean Lewis actually loses all 3 of his quarterbacks?
I don't know, but apparently one of the inbound guys, the high school kids, is supposed to be really good.
Long Beach.
Yeah, but I mean, it's got to be so hard trying to build a roster. It's like herding cats. And the minute you think you got one, you lose 2 out the back door. I mean, I don't know how in the hell these guys do it.
They got to get this thing under control, but right now it's out of control. I was really hopeful that Sean Lewis was going to stop the hemorrhaging and the bleeding, the loss of these players. But now the guys that he's recruited are vacated. I mean, if he loses Danny O'Neal, it's a setback. I think Danny O'Neal owes Sean Lewis another year as a starting quarterback.
I always kind of thought of those 2 guys as kind of a package deal.
They were.
So it's surprising that O'Neal, I mean, allegedly, we haven't fully confirmed it, if he is leaving. I mean, that's big news.
Unless a representative comes back and said, can you give us more money in the NIL? And maybe Sean Lewis will be able to find some more money. But they're really limited. That's a big problem, I think.
Did you see the stack ranking of the Mountain West Conference and all the NIL money?
Yeah.
The Aztecs are at the top of the list, but it's still small numbers.
At the top of the list in football, but nowhere's near what Aztec basketball has.
That was one of my questions, too. Does each team have their own NIL bucket, or does it all go into one bucket that's spread across all the sports?
Each program has its own bucket.
Interesting.
Sean Cole, the new baseball coach at San Diego State, is trying to leverage relationships with major league players, including Aztec alums, to give back to the program so he can build an NIL pot for Aztec baseball. But each program has its own.
Interesting.
That's where we are. Last football topic on the table. You ready for this? Go ahead, John.
Okay, we're going to put the names on the list, the Heisman Trophy, and I know you have a ballot.
My ballot was turned in. I can't tell you who I voted for because that's part of the agreement up until the ceremony on Saturday night. So I will just say, here's my ballot. Who would you check off as the one you'd give it to? Would it be Dillon Gabriel, the trigger man for the University of Oregon Ducks? Would it be the do-everything Renaissance man, Travis Hunter, kind of a Neon Dion clone at Colorado? Would it be the big-time running back who's about to maybe bust the all-time single-season rushing record in Ashton Jeanty from Boise State, who, by the way, turned down volumes of money and stayed at Boise, did not go to the NFL, and did not transfer out? Or would it be the one-year rental Cam Ward? He's a small college kid who went to Washington State for 2 years, got NIL money, went to Miami, threw for over 4,000 yards this season before they kind of ran out of gas at the end of the year. So those are the 4 finalists. I tell you, now I know why they put erasers on pencils. Because I bet I've changed my mind 4 times this year as to who I thought was the lead candidate and eventually who I wound up voting for. So, John, go ahead. Who do you like?
You know, this is a tough one, isn't it? This year, it's an interesting one.
You think?
Yeah. I mean, normally I would think the number one team with the quarterback that's setting all the records would be the obvious pick, but we have never, ever seen anything like Travis Hunter. I mean, he is a unicorn of all unicorns. To me, he's the guy that's most deserving of this. And like you said, he's like a clone of Dion. He can play both ways on the edge. So if I were voting, it would be Travis Hunter. But I just love these kids. I mean, they're all great kids. And I mean, Ashton Jeanty, you've talked about him, how he is a good character guy. You know, I don't know much about Cam Ward, you know, kind of on the other side of the country, but there's a lot to like about Jeanty. Dillon Gabriel, I followed him when he was at Oklahoma, but boy, has he taken a huge step up from when he was with the Sooners.
And he's surrounded by phenomenal talent. Might be the best roster in college football.
Right.
So, do you want my pencil with the eraser? Change your mind?
So when are we going to hear the news?
Saturday night, Maxwell Club Award.
Okay.
On TV, coming out of the Army-Navy game, you'll go right to that.
Perfect.
Last topic on the table before we get it to you for Fans Forum. This involves hoops.
Hoops. The Warriors and the Clippers are on your list.
Yeah, let's just start here with Golden State. Warriors are trying to make a trade. This is really intriguing. I mean, Steve Kerr runs that thing with his hand, his finger on the pulse of everything at Golden State. They're trying to make a deal to get another guard, and they're talking to the Miami Heat. Now, this would be challenging, but then again, if Steve Kerr can handle Draymond Green more times than not, I guess he could handle Jimmy Butler. But Miami's kind of reached the end of the emotional road with Butler. He's got 1 year left on his contract. He's been a load to handle because he's happy, he's unhappy, he's healthy, he's hurt. And Pat Riley was asked, how come you haven't given this explosive guy an extension? He says, because I need guys who are going to be on the floor all the time. And that's not been Jimmy Butler. It wasn't Jimmy Butler in Chicago. It wasn't Jimmy Butler in Miami. Golden State's trying to make a deal to get Jimmy Butler. If they can't get him, they're going after a former Laker. And I really like this guy. Now, he's not a great star, but boy, he brings energy and he does have attitude. Dennis Schroeder.
Oh, yeah.
He's playing with the Brooklyn Nets. He's just a bit of a hard ass. But he's a little bit of high management too for Steve Kerr. But they're gonna try to get one of these guards sometime in the next couple of weeks before the trade deadline. In terms of the Clippers, this is a story that really bears watching. He went back to the practice floor a week ago, and all he was doing was standing and taking set shots and jumping with a trainer. No other movements, no scrimmage, no running up and down the floor, no side to side and all that. They elevated Kawhi Leonard's practice schedule this week, and he's doing everything except the physical contact of what a full scrimmage would be. They think he's at about 75% right now. So far, no setbacks to the inflammation with the knee. He's doing some basketball stuff. They got themselves what they think is another 10 days, and then they think they'll make the decision. They think he'll be back by right before Christmas, and he should play. Now, he may play on a minutes limit, some type of cap, just to protect this knee. So this is a little bit surprising because I swore to you a couple of weeks ago, I thought his career was over. They just could not, after 8 months of rehab, he kept having setbacks and the inflammation and the swelling kept coming back. now he's progressed through different rehab stages and seems to be making progress. So we'll see what the next 10 days, 2 weeks are. Well, Christmas is less than 2 weeks from now, but they think if there's no setbacks when he actually starts to scrimmage, and the Clippers, I think, only play 3 games in 21 days. So they have a lot of practice time to actually put him into crunch situations and see how he plays and see how the knee reacts. So that's where we are. All things basketball. Steve Kerr can handle anybody. Hell, he handles Draymond Green. I was going to handle Jimmy Butler and Dennis Schroeder.
Yeah, Kerr is a special guy, and an intellect as well. It just seems like the Warriors, you got Curry and you got Draymond, and they're older, and they maybe only have the window is closing. So maybe, bring in Butler. But I've heard rumors about LeBron going to the Warriors. I mean, is there anything to that?
I don't understand how they could take on a $50 million contract. And what would that say about LeBron's character to leave the Lakers behind?
Leave his son.
Yeah, leave his son behind. Oh, by the way, speaking of Bronny, Lakers changed their mind. Lakers have now told Bronny, you're playing in the G League and you're going to play road games and home games.
Yeah,
because he was only playing home games and he was traveling with the Lakers on the road, sitting on the bench for the whole time. So how does he grow? How does he progress as a player if he's not playing all the time? So he did play for the South Bay Lakers in a game, I guess it was last weekend, against the San Diego Clippers. It was up in L.A. But they've just told him, you are going on the road. I think he plays his first road game. So it'll be a media zoo wherever they're playing, but he's going to play in the G League, and he's got to play every game. I don't care if you're LeBron's son. You got to play every game in the G League, and let's grow as a player. We'll find out who you are. You can't be a part-time player in the G League and go be with dad and sit on the bench when they get their brains blown out in Minnesota.
I'm just thinking of his G League teammates. They're thinking, who the hell is this prima donna? Doesn't go on the road with us.
His legacy player.
Yeah, it's a bad chemistry.
So that's where we are, all things NBA. Hey, now it's your turn. We're going to go a half hour. So we want you to join us now in Fans Forum. You got a question? You got a comment? You got a statement to make? Hit us in the chat box right now. This podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. Best idea I've heard, and I've done business with DIXIELINE, is DIXIELINE gift cards for Christmas. Great stocking stuffers. Check it out at DIXIELINELumber.com or stop by a DIXIELINE store. You still got time to do some Christmas shopping. John, I'm ready. You ready? Ready, set, go.
There's so much Dodger smack talk here. It's unbelievable. Okay, let's start here with Johnny Cage, and he says, Michael King will walk in free agency and he'll sign with the beloved LA Dodgers.
Well, the whole world now sees the amount of money that's being paid to everybody, from mid-level guys to superstars. I think it's going to be really hard unless there's a special relationship, player management, special relationship, player in the community. Michael King and his wife, by the way, have done a lot of stuff with foundations in his less than 1 year with the San Diego Padres. So maybe he's developed that relationship, but we'll see. I mean, if the theory runs true that everybody sees the money every pitcher's getting, everybody's going to test free agency. We'll see if the Padres can sign him. And, I've been kind of surprised that they have not reached agreement with Cease or King before the winter meeting started, because now we have a different price structure for virtually everybody who becomes a free agent pitcher in baseball. Dodger fan, just kind of walking down the hallway and stealing Christmas gifts under a tree.
Yeah, well, look at this. forever. Sham Diego. Madres are dead. Bye-bye. Thanks for playing.
Okay, thank you very much.
And that's one of the polite ones.
Just glad to give you the opportunity to pile on, but hasn't it become a great rivalry? Holy cow, this has become a great rivalry.
Yeah, now look at this. This is Johnny saying Yamamoto, Glasnow, Gonsolin, Ohtani, Snell, May, Sasaki, Sheehan, Knack, Ryan. You could probably add Michael King to the list. I mean, come on.
There's no doubt. I mean, they have unbelievable pitching. But that being said, let's understand there's a bad history of injuries with Glasnow. Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, Dodger Stadium. Gonsolin's had 2 surgeries. Ohtani is legend. But we don't know, coming off the elbow surgery, how close a pitcher he's going to be to the dominant pitcher he was. Snell is vintage Snell. Who knows what you get the first half of the season? We do know what he's done. Dustin May's had 3 surgeries. Sasaki, young kid, vibrant talent. Maybe they have to work a 6-day rotation with him. Sheehan is coming off elbow surgery. Knack Young guy, young lion, I think pretty good pitcher, but again, you got to do it on every fourth or fifth day basis at Dodger Stadium. They got strength in numbers. I'm not arguing with you at all on that, Johnny, but Snell becomes a big insurance policy, and that's why I think they signed him in the middle of the night.
And they're leaving out Miller, and they're leaving out, is it Grove? Or is it Stone? One of those guys is hurt.
Well, Gavin Stone won't pitch this year.
Okay, yeah.
But Bobby Miller is there. Can he be what he was a year and a half ago? And Grove is a young guy they are so deep. I mean, the numbers, it's monstrous how deep they are in terms of all these pitching. But there's some asterisks next to a bunch of those guys because they have a history of injuries.
Dodger fan piling on those greedy SOBs. They're going to get everybody.
No, now you got Giant fan upset here.
Okay, let's go to Angel, and he says, bet you anything that had the Padres lost the TV deal, we wouldn't be having this discussion.
I think somewhere along the way, because Peter Seidler was really offended when the national media 2 years ago brought up the question about sustainability. When they were pouring all these assets in and rocketing his payroll, and it was good for baseball, it was good for the players, but he got offended. And then, unfortunately, they wound up losing the $60 million TV deal from Bally Sports. And then they had to pay a $40 million luxury tax bill that came due. So I understand them taking their money down. But they're raking in such volume of money right now in terms of total revenue. I think they owe it to this community not to cut this payroll further, but rather reinvest some. I'm not saying go back to 231 million, but take it back up. You're about 170 now. Let it go to 190 and let them keep this team together or add on. Because I don't think they're the same team. If your hand is forced to trade Cease and to trade Arise, I just don't think you're the same team because I'm not sure you're going to get the same amount of equal talent as young as it might be coming in the door.
Isn't it weird how as fans we get emotional connections to certain players?
Sure.
And that's our guy, like Snell. He's our guy. Yeah, he went to the Giants for a year, but oh my God, he went to the Dodgers. It's amazing how we have these emotional connections. But then at other times you got to flip your hat around and say it's a business, and these guys are, the business people, they want to win, but really they want to make money. Every team wants to make money.
Yep. So
you have to sort of acknowledge that fact. And these players just get shuffled around. On one level, good for the players, a lot of opportunity, but geez, you hate to be a young player and get shipped off to, play for the Minnesota Twins or something in a location you don't really want to be.
Yeah, but it's not happening to young players. It's the veteran star players that are getting moved. The young guys are still here because they're cost effective.
But they're the ones that get packaged in the deal, to unload a big contract.
Not all the time, but sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. Nobody's trading Jackson Merrill. I guarantee you that. So he's not a young guy that's going to be thrown into a deal. Next 2 weeks, leading to Christmas, it's going to be interesting. Now, if more names come off the board, John, between now and Christmas Eve, and then there's nobody left to go get, now the Padres got a real problem because now their hands are going to be forced and they're not dealing from strength in terms of we're going to move Cease. Well, maybe you're not going to get what you could get before, and you can't come back and say, well, there's still free agents out there.
Well, here's a wild scenario. So let's assume Ha-Seong Kim is gone. Mm-hmm. And they haven't committed. The Padres haven't committed to a shortstop. It could be Xander, but maybe not. Let's assume that Xander is traded or he just remains a second. There's no shortstop. Would Tatis or Merrill maybe move into the shortstop just like Mookie Betts did with the Dodgers?
No, because AJ Preller was of the opinion that we got some really good outfielders here. I'm not going to mess with this. There's no reason to create more chaos. You got a shortstop and you got a second baseman. Cronenworth, Bogaerts. You're strong in center. You're strong in right. We got to go find a left fielder if it's not going to be Profar. And if we have to move Arise, then we have to go find a first baseman. The Cease to Boston trade makes sense if Tristan Casas is coming here. He's a power hitting first baseman from Boston. They got too many guys. Or if Abreu, the young outfielder, is coming from Boston for Dylan Cease, then he goes and he's your left fielder. But we don't know that's a lock. So that's where we are now. Padres have probably got 2 weeks by Christmas Eve. I think a lot of guys are going to be gone beneath that Christmas tree, and then we'll find out who's left out there and then what the Padres are going to do.
Yeah.
Tough time to be a GM.
Big decisions here. Hey, let's switch gears here. We'll talk a little about Pac-12. This is from Greg. He goes, Lee and John, I always found it odd that the old Pac-12 never included San Diego State and Fresno State. Any thoughts on this?
I think resources had a lot to do with it. You know, Fresno State's economics in the Central Valley is different. San Diego State has always had a money crunch problem, an identity problem. How do we fund our athletic program and all that? You know, there was at one point where there was talk in the 70s that they were going to get rid of football at San Diego State because they weren't winning. They couldn't fund it. Well, the eras change, etc. But USC and UCLA was never going to allow those schools in. I mean, you already got 2 Bay Area schools, and Trojans, Bruins don't want somebody from the South stealing recruits when they could come in and get the recruits to come play. So that's why those schools never, ever got the opportunity. And that's why San Diego State was in the WAC, and then it became in the Mountain West. And then the only reason they're in the Pac-12 is because of the death of the Pac-12, because everybody defected. And in all essence, you know, Greg, the Pac-12 as it's aligned right now on Christmas Eve, that sure looks like Mountain West 2.0 to me, or looks like the old WAC to me.
Yeah, it does. But you know what? There's more to the story to why San Diego State was not in the Pac-12. It has to do with the fact that the University of California schools are kind of a little snotty, you know, to the little brother Cal State schools. And, you know, the Cal State schools, they don't let them have PhDs, although that's changing a bit now. So there's been a sort of a second-class situation that the university leaders and the academics, they didn't want to be associated with that low-brow Cal State, San Diego State, Fresno State.
You're always looking down your nose at people. Do you carry your UCSD degree in your pocket and flash that at me?
No, I think they should have been in there the whole time, but that's the history, and it's real. I mean, it goes back to the 50s and 60s that there's been a lot of tension between like the academics at UCLA and San Diego State, and a lot of like bullying. I mean, that goes on at that level.
You know, I worked in Arizona before I came here. I did Arizona State Sun Devil football. You know, they were in that same thing. They were in the old WAC, Arizona State, Arizona. And forever, they were big-time programs. They were the opinion we should be there. They were being the Pac-10 at that point. And they didn't want to look at them again.
Oh, that was a Pac-8 at that point, wasn't it?
Snooty and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
But TV dollars changed.
Yes.
TV contracts drove people to say, oh, maybe we should expand. And suddenly Arizona State, Arizona wound up in the expanded Pac-10, Pac-12 conference.
Oh, and that's a much bigger TV market than San Diego or Fresno.
Yeah, and a lot of tradition. I mean, phenomenal tradition at Arizona State. And to a degree at the University of Arizona, which is more of a basketball school than it is anything else. Greg, thank you for the contribution.
Okay, let's go here to Callan. He goes, Lee, if you were king, how would you pump up some life into NHL overtime? 3v3 is cool, but watching the Ducks Habs on Monday had some scoring chances, but a lot of skating around and not much action.
Well, everybody wants to try to create an advantage, get somebody caught up ice, suddenly got a 2-on-1 break going the other way, and that's how you score. I don't know there's a solution. You know, when it was 5-on-5, there wasn't a lot of space to maneuver. So they went 3-on-3 and opened up center ice and opened up skating and passing and all that. And you still get shootouts. You know, the Ducks lost a shootout the other night. Was it Montreal or Ottawa? I guess it was Montreal. So I don't know if there's a pure solution to the NHL overtime, but that game has evolved. That game has changed. But I'll tell you what, you got to make sure you don't get caught in bad matchups when it's 3-on-3 in overtime. I don't want the wrong people on the ice against your number one line. And that's a big issue. And then everybody is short shifts, but there's so much open ice when it's 3-on-3. You say, oh, watch this pass. Ooh, he comes in off the left wing, he cranks a shot. Or all of a sudden, there's a deflection, loose puck at center ice, puck goes the other way, it's 2-on-1. Oh, my defenseman's in trouble. So with the open ice has kind of made overtime a little bit exciting.
Isn't it interesting how all the sports are monkeying around with this kind of post-game, extra innings, overtime, whatever?
Golden bat, ghost runner.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone, and then the way the NFL keeps monkeying around with the system. But explain it to me, because I know in the NHL, they would just take a tie. They wouldn't have an
back
overtime.
In the day.
Yeah. So when did that change?
Oh my goodness. I want to say 5 or 10 years ago, it changed. Now, if you wind up in a tie in regulation play, you get a point in the standings.
Mm-hmm.
So then you go to overtime, and the winner in overtime gets the 2 points. You still keep the point you got because you forced it.
Okay.
But if you get bad teams get into overtime, all they're doing is dumping the puck in, dumping the puck out, so they don't want to get beat. They want that 1 point in regulation to get it into overtime. But So they went overtime, then they went shootout. Shootout's kind of fun, but we've had shootouts instead of a 3-man shootout. Now we had shootouts have gone 9 and 12 players deep because they couldn't score on a goaltender, or they scored and then I scored. It's kind of fascinating, but I think it's a little bit of a cheap gimmick.
Well, I think the most innovative and best run overtime system is college football. It's like they give each team a shot, and it's balanced. And then, you get a couple of rounds in, you can't do point afters. You got to do the 2-point. I think they've kind of figured it out.
So you weren't aghast that Georgia Tech won 8 overtimes.
No, that's good. That's good. I mean, that's like seated, edge of your seat watching.
Yeah, but it kind of gets old too.
Well, at least it's not as bad as going like 17 innings.
Okay, good deal. Nice to have you on board, Callum. Thanks for joining us. Next one.
Okay, Callum wants to throw this one in. Also, we need an Insiders Group Christmas party. I'm going to keep bringing it up every episode.
I keep asking John, what's the limit on your credit card? You are going to buy shots of Jack Daniels, so we'll figure it out. We got to figure it out. The problem we have is our Insiders Group, they come from everywhere. Well, how many guys that are out of town who are part of the Insiders Group are going to drive down here and want to exchange shots of Jack Daniels with John Riley and me? And he's Irish. He's more Irish than I am. I'm Irish Italian. He drinks more than I do.
They want to see you. You're the legend. You're the franchise. No, we should do this. I mean, even if, we only attract people that are in a 20-mile radius of wherever we choose to do it.
Now, we'll put it in the hopper of things to decide. We're trying to decide the bigger discussion argument we're having is, should we keep this podcast on Thursday or should we move it to Friday going into the Great Sports Weekend? We haven't quite solved that one yet. John's going to come up with a mini poll for everybody on the Insiders Group so they can actually voice an opinion. Go ahead, John. Next one.
Okay, let's go here to Adrian, and he says, it'll be a great day when the Angels are no longer the ass end of every joke. Please sell the team, Marty.
Yeah. Clean up aisle 3, Dollar General. Artie Moreno standing on aisle 3, signing Dollar General players while the rest of the league is signing Juan Soto of the world. I don't understand the rationale. And it's been so long since they've been so good. And the 2 cornerstone guys they're relying on to try to bring them back are ravaged by injuries, Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon. It's just, boy, you're talking about a bad set of circumstances.
Like I said before, I just don't get it. I want the Angels to be successful.
It's a market unto itself.
Yeah. And it'd be nice to have like a competitive American League team in Southern California. I mean, it lines up so nicely, and yet it's just this quagmire, that we just don't really understand what they're trying to accomplish. I mean, it's got to be hell if you're a longtime Angel season ticket holder. I mean, showing loyalty to your team is good, but you kind of feel like you're getting burned.
Artie Moreno said 2 weeks ago, after he solved the TV deal, they re-upped with Diamond Sports Group, Ballet Sports, or whatever it's called now, FanDuel Sports Network. He says, we're going to raise the budget. Okay, well, you just came through the winter baseball meetings. Did you sign anybody at the winter baseball meetings of note? Did you try? And the answer, they came back home with the suitcase empty. No, there've not been any additions to the roster. So are they a little bit better? Yeah, they got a few plug-in veterans who buy them some time, and I like some of the guys they got if they can be the kind of players they used to be. But there's no difference maker. They're no better now than they were last year when they lost 99 games.
I don't even know what to say.
Don't say anything.
Yeah.
Clean up aisle 3.
Okay, let's go here to Carlos, and he says, Hacksaw, you have more Dodger fans supporting your channel than Madre fans. From Baja to the Canadian Rockies, we are your biggest fans.
That's fine. You know what I'd really like? This is my Christmas list to you people. I want you on social media, or however you network with all your followers and your sports friends. I want you to tell them what we do on Mondays and Thursdays on this podcast. I want you to tell them about my award-winning website, because the only way we're going to build this and push this thing over the top is if we have a volume of Padre fans and a volume of Dodger fans, and I'll just stand back and let you guys fight with each other every Monday and Thursday. But that's a Christmas gift you could give me. If you people would tell everybody on your Rolodex in your email address book who we are and what we do, and make sure they're part of it, because the response we've gotten is phenomenal. I don't do the metrics. He pays attention to the numbers, but it's phenomenal what we've been able to put together for 17 months.
Yeah, it just keeps building and building, and it's great. Carlos and all the Dodger fans, thanks for joining us. we talk Dodger talk, right? And kind of have a different angle, a different approach to it. And so it's all good. And there's so many fans that they don't necessarily remember you from 690. They remember you from LA AM 570
and 1090
and 1090. So yeah, you've got a loyal following up there.
Yeah, blame me.
Okay, let's keep moving. Kenny's water bottle. Hello from the Great White North. Then Mesa Stormy says the freezing White North.
Oh, I'm sure it's a little frosty up there in Edmonton and Calgary and Winnipeg. And it's great to have the O Canada Network here. We do touch and we do talk some hockey on a weekly basis on this podcast.
Okay, let's go here to Halos in the Infield. Looking forward to podcasting with you soon, Hacksaw. Can you please grade the Angels off season so far?
I'd say B- to a C+. I mean, they've added some people who are proven major leaguers. But if you're increasing the budget, please show me where outside of Kikuchi, who I think's solid. Is he going to win a Cy Young? Nah. Is he win 10 games? I don't know. But they, strength in numbers. They need more. They need a star. They need an acquisition that's going to say, wow, I haven't seen that yet. And I do like Kyle Hendricks, and I do like Kevin Newman, and Darno is a proven guy, but they haven't done it on a consistent basis yet. So there's still names out there. So we'll see if they reach under the Christmas tree and they give Angel fans somebody that you can identify with. You say, wow, that's a pretty good acquisition because I haven't done it yet.
Now they're trying to trade Ward, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the story there?
Maybe they get somebody different. Maybe they get a frontline pitcher for Ward. I mean, Ward did hit 25 home runs this past season. I think about a 250, 245. So he can swing at some, but I don't know. I just don't understand it. I mean, if you're sales pitching to me that all's well, because you still got Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon, I ask the question, where do you get that from? They haven't been able to stay on the field. And you can't tell me my other two outfielders hit 201 and 205 and all's well there, because they're not. So, Artie, get off aisle 3 and go find me some names that I can identify with that I can talk about for Angel fans and say, yeah, because right now I don't see it.
Well, in one of your best 15s recently, you said that the Angels want to have Rendon as a designated hitter.
Maybe.
But isn't that what they talked about for Trout?
Exactly.
So what's the deal?
Trout wants to play every day. Trout gets hurt playing hard. Rendon gets hurt because he just gets hurt. I went back and looked at the stats on Rendon. John, there have been a total of 408 games that he has played, or 408 games he could have played in the last 4 years. And he's missed like 268 of them. It's just a phenomenal number of games that he's been out, and he's collecting all that money.
Yeah, and getting in fights with the fans.
Yeah, and he still owe him 2 more years.
Just, injury. I mean, I think of Kawhi, all these guys that are superstars that should be so much better. Rendon was so good with Juan Soto in 2019 with the Nationals. I mean, I thought this guy was going to have a great career, and everything went to hell.
Yeah, he lost his health at the airport. They lost his bag. He's been hurt nonstop. We'll talk more. Angels. There's still names out there to go get. Artie Moreno, get off aisle 3. Dollar General. Go make a deal somewhere else. Next question.
Let's go to RM. He goes, please take the Chargers and Clippers back. The Raiders have more fans in LA than the Rams, Chargers, and Clippers combined.
Raiders. If you were sober enough, RM, you'd really be upset that they're 2-10. But obviously you're not sober enough to understand how bad they are. Fascinating story today. Tom Brady confirming he will be the lead consultant to Mark Davis in the search for the next quarterback with the Raiders. And I don't know whether that's going to be Cam Ward in Miami, Shedeur Sanders in Colorado, but Brady is going to be part of the evaluation people in that front office. So he's come in not as a minority owner. He is going to be a loud voice in trying to fix the Raiders. And boy, they need help in so many different places. You can wear silver and black paint, I don't care, and wear the colors and the jerseys and all that. But at the end of the day, you've had 2 winning seasons in 22 years. I don't know if you understand that. Why do you accept that? But Raiders got a lot of work to do to fix that thing. But Brady's going to have input now.
Interesting. Remember we were saying maybe conflict of interest because he's also working for Fox Sports. But that kind of that story sort of dissolved.
Well, he's still got the limitations as to what he can do. And I don't know if I were a lead analyst and I didn't have access to head coach the players, and I could not do what the other network people are allowed to do from CBS or NBC or ESPN, I don't think I'd like that.
Do you think he's getting better as an
Yes.
analyst?
Yeah, he's getting better, but he started out as a C and he needed a lot of reps and he's gotten better, but he doesn't set the world on fire. I don't think he's as dynamic as Greg Olson. I don't think he's as dynamic as Chris Collinsworth and obviously Tony Romo. So Tom Brady, he's 4th on the chart. 4th.
I love it how sportscasters, they consider it reps. You got to get more reps in front of the microphone, but it's true. I mean, I could say that for doing podcasting. Okay, let's keep going here. We got more people to get involved. This is from Emerson. Lee Hacksaw, I've been hearing you since your times in Los Angeles. I was a youngster when I called the radio station. Always support your talking points.
Oh, thank you. Proves one thing. You do it long enough, you should get good enough at it. I got an email from a guy that I used to work with in Phoenix way back. It was really funny. And he'd been in radio for a long period of time. And now he's retired. And he said, I remember working for you. I was so afraid of you when you were in Phoenix because you were so loud and so boisterous and all that. And he said, you made some comment to me the first night I was running the board for your show as a producer, and I had made a mistake, and you got on the intercom and made some crude comment. And I said, Mike, I don't think I made that comment. If you did make a mistake, I probably would have gotten on the intercom during a break and said, your next mistake will be your last. Or I would have gotten on the intercom and I would have said, here's a quarter. During the next break, go home, call your mother, tell her you don't think your career in radio is going to work out.
But
and my favorite one was before the show even started, and we had all these young board ops. So they were good kids, and we tried to guide them along the way. But I mean, I ran a fast-paced show with a lot of guests and interviews, and we had a young girl from Arizona State was doing an internship, and she was really bright. And she wound up getting a job at the network and did very well. And she was looking at me. I could just tell she was nervous. And I punched the intercom button before we were on the air at KTAR in Phoenix. And I said, no problem. Just don't screw this up.
Well, speaking, our relationship, you like to throw around a lot of crap, and at first it's intimidating, but
BS.
No, it is. At first you're like, who the hell? This guy's in my house and he's like throwing shit at me about this podcast, but it's all good. It's all in the fun of it all. And once you kind of get over that, and if you're like a college student, it's going to be intimidating, but I mean, it's all good.
Yeah. When I said, here's a quarter, call your mom and tell her you don't think this career in radio is going to work out. I don't think that went down very well.
Hey, let's go here to Ed. And he goes, I hope North Carolina learns something from what happened with Herm Edwards at Arizona State.
Well, that's a really interesting point. Now, the athletic director, Ray Anderson at Arizona State, had this same philosophy that Herman Edwards did about how we're going to run it as a business, and because that was pre-NIL. It's a really different time right now. I have no doubt if my kid were a right tackle or a safety, would I want him to go learn under Belichick? I think I would, just because Belichick's track record and his attention to detail and his intelligence. I've told John, I interviewed, I think, Belichick 3 different times. I was fascinated interviewing him as a talk show host. He would not tell me any inside information on the Patriots or Brady, et cetera. I didn't expect that. But once I got him off on talking about philosophies and X's and O's and history of football, he's a great military historian. My God, he was unbelievable. He's like Woody Hayes. I enjoyed him, but I don't think I would have enjoyed working with him if I were working for the Boston Globe or WEEI and had to deal with all that condescending crap every day at practice and the limitations and the generic statements and, as I would call them, oh, Bill, that's a comment, non-comment. Clarify that, would you please? I'd get tired of that because that's the game he played. Now, he got on TV, and I've been really impressed because he's been open. He's had fun with it. He's done streaming and podcast and all that. So he's done some kind of cool things. But in the daily grind of having to cover this team and deal with him as the point man, when he has nothing to say and he's wasting the 18 minutes of my time that I'm given with him, geez, not for me.
What was the line from Herm Edwards? Was it, you play to win the game?
Yes.
Was that the one?
That's the line.
And the other one was Dennis Green, is they are who we thought they were or whatever. Yeah, every one of these coaches has a line that you always remember.
Yeah. I'd get tired of dealing with Belichick. but dealing with a distance that the 3 opportunities I had when I was voice of the Chargers and Seahawks, and we went to Foxborough and played, and that was at the height of the greatness of the team. It was kind of fun. And I remember asking him about Parcells, because they were kind of cut from the same cloth. And I dealt with Parcells a little bit too, and he was really dynamic. I mean, he had fun with the media, and he was really glib. This guy was dour and mundane and all that. I like dealing with both of them. What the hell it says about me, I don't know.
It's all the cast of characters, these NFL and college coaches. They're unbelievable. I mean, they're leaders of men, and they've got to rally their troops, and they have to have a personality.
Yep. Okay, thank you for the input, Ed.
Okay, let's go here to Joe. He goes, when expanding, why does the Big Ten always skip over Pitt when they are a natural and historic rival to Penn State and have a history of the Big Ten? Also, Pittsburgh is a major metro area, which would be a benefit to the Big Ten network.
I agree with you. And I mean, people in Western Pennsylvania are fanatical about being fanatical watching their teams, Pitt Panthers included. I don't know whether it was an academic issue, whether it's a money issue. I mean, the Big Ten has always been hotty-toddy in terms of academics. They're kind of up there looking down at everybody. Maybe that's got something to do with it. I was so upset way back in the day when the Big East dissolved, because if you think about Syracuse, Pitt, Penn State, West Virginia, Boston College, Maryland, I mean, they're in a quadrant in the northeast corner. Those are all big markets. And if you had good programs funded properly, the Big East had a place at the table in big time sports. Now, Big East basketball eventually did, but it wound up costing, because, Syracuse, I was shocked when Syracuse went to the ACC. And then I was shocked when Pittsburgh wound up going there. And then BC, they make no geographical sense. There's no historical rivalry. That doesn't make any sense. You get excited about Syracuse playing Wake Forest? No, you didn't get excited about that.
Well, when you think of BC and the ACC, you think of them playing Doug Flutie, against that Miami. But Penn State, I thought they were always in the Big Ten, no?
But originally they were there was a gentleman's agreement. It was called the Big Five. And that was Pitt, Penn State, Syracuse, West Virginia, BC. It was not a conference per se. It was kind of an emotional attachment in football. But anyhow, that became the Big East in basketball. And Big East in basketball for over a decade, 2 decades, was just phenomenal because of St. John's and Georgetown, Syracuse, etc. But the whole thing scattered. And, got freaking West Virginia, the Mountaineers. I've been to Morgantown. It's a beautiful state. The poverty is ungodly. But they love the Mountaineers in that state. They're playing in the Big 12. West Virginia is playing at Oklahoma State. You kidding me? Anybody attached emotionally to that rivalry? That's like what happened this year. Cal Golden Bears, they're playing in Clemson, or they're playing at Wake Forest. You got to be kidding me.
It's interesting too. The Big East in basketball now is sort of kind of like the West Coast Conference, where all the schools are like Catholic universities, or many of them are. So it's interesting how that sort of evolved differently with basketball.
Yeah, I wish it had not imploded the way it did, because the Big East, I think, had its own place at the table, but then it kind of got away from them.
Well, your old colleague, Scott Kaplan, he's a Pitt Panther, right?
Yeah. Same storyline. I mean, Pitt, Penn State, what a fierce rivalry. But it's only in the 814 area code and the 412 area code. The rest of the country doesn't care about Pitt, Penn State, but that's big. It's kind of like it's Indiana, Purdue. We talked a couple of weeks ago about the Old Oak and Bucket, the great rivalry college football game. I was in Indianapolis the weekend that game was played. I was doing hockey. Nobody cared about Ohio State, Michigan. It was like, that was on the other side of the border. Who cared? All I cared about was Indiana, Purdue, the Old Oak and Bucket.
Right on.
Yeah. So these rivalries, the Egg Bowl, Mississippi State. It's huge down there.
Egg Bowl.
That's what it's called. Yeah. Yeah. You need to get out of the house more.
Yeah.
The Centennial Cup, Arizona State, Arizona. Yeah. UCLA, USC, Civil War, Oregon State, the Apple Cup. I mean, those great rivalries are there. Some have been blown up. Some have now been reinstituted.
Well, just to stay on the Pennsylvania theme, like this weekend in the NFL, it's Steelers-Eagles.
Yeah, battle for the Keystone State.
That's a pretty fierce rivalry, I would imagine.
They don't play each other very often because they're in different conferences.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mike Tomlin stood up at his Monday press conference and said, I am proud to represent the WPIAL next Sunday. People around the country say, what is that? Well, that's the Western Pennsylvania Interscholastic Athletic League. That's the high school league in Western PA, and high school football is monstrously big everywhere.
That's like Dan Marino territory.
Yeah, Joe Montana turf. You know how many quarterbacks have come out of WPA? So anyhow, he says, I'm glad to represent the WPIAL against those guys from back east. He's talking about Eagle fans, Philadelphia, etc., because the guys in the WPIAL, the Aliquippas of the world, would kick the ass of the Philadelphia schools in the state high school playoffs.
You know, it's a battleground state, as they say in the world of politics.
In more ways than one.
But it's true in football, too.
Okay, let's do a couple more here.
Okay, let's go to Chris. And he goes, the Christmas party, make it happen. I would drive for days to throw down Jack Daniels shots with you studs.
Well, we'll take it under advisement. I'll have my people call his people.
Okay. All right. Let's go here to social media. We got a couple of guys here.
We got more than a couple.
Yeah. All right. Let's go here to talk a little Padres. And I gotta remove that other. There we go. Okay. This is from Abe Froman. You know who Abe Froman is? By the way, it's a sausage king of Chicago.
Oh, okay.
That's from the Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Okay. So Abe says, I don't think this ownership group knows what it's like before when 16,000 fans were there on a Friday night. Nobody bought any Padre jerseys. And when the owners were begging for season ticket sales, if this is true, not cool, Padres. Fans stepped up. Peter stepped up. And sounds like new brains are ready to take it all for granted and cheap it out.
Well, I'm bothered by it because this community in 2 calendar years has done a phenomenal job making this a destination point, Petco Park. And I do understand luxury tax problems that come with busting the payroll limit. But, you know, if you're at 170 and you have drawn the kind of fans you've done and you're so close to being a World Series team, I would think you should push this payroll up to 190 or maybe even 200 and just get to the close to the limit. Because you're drawing revenue, record attendance. I just think you owe it to the community. Don't sit there and tell me rationally, okay, now it's going to go down to 150. Because I don't like that. Because you're getting rid of players, which means you're not going to have the roster you had last year. That was 1 game away from going to the National League Championship Series, and there's nothing in the farm system right now that's coming. So, I'd hate to see him take a step back.
Now, I've seen statistics about what percentage of revenue is allocated to players on the payroll. And wasn't the Padres like around 55% or something like that?
Yeah. And I think it was a higher number.
So my question is I wonder what the next, like the number 2 and number 3 expense would be for a major league team. I mean, obviously they have employees all over the place.
So your baseball operation, I mean, every team has 200 players under contract, major league through the rookie league complex. That's the max number you could have is 200. But, you know, nobody pays any attention. Medical cost is ungodly. I mean, every time somebody gets hurt, MRI. You know what MRI cost? I've written check for MRI. It's like $1,800. It's phenomenal. So, I mean, you think of all the medical stuff and then all the travel stuff. And then obviously the salaries. Your franchise is not just a 25-man roster. Your franchise is 6 farm clubs, 200 players, plus managers, plus coaches, plus AJ's entourage of scouts that are, as I say, boots on the ground. They are everywhere internationally.
Well, the minor league players, aren't they part of the minor league team budget? I mean, obviously the signing bonus, the major league team.
The Padres pay every penny of everything.
So that's all counted too.
Oh, yes. That's an expense.
I just assumed that, you know, the El Paso Chihuahuas had their own little bucket of a budget.
No. All that money comes out of the Padres checking account.
Interesting. Okay.
Because they pay for everybody.
Okay.
You know, and then you got the stadium operations and all the people it costs to run Petco. I mean, it's phenomenal.
Yeah. And they've been, and to their credit, the Padres are making a lot of investment in Petco as well.
Exactly. But please don't tell me your investment of payroll is going to be decreased from last year's $170 million.
Yeah.
Okay, next one.
Okay, talking Juan Soto here. This is from Uncle Daddy Ray. 15 years at $765 million. 2 things. First off, MLB owners have way more money than I ever thought. Second, this will be a bust. Dude will be good for about 5 years, then will be a dog the last 10. Combo Trout and Pujols.
Well, Trout and Pujols have been done in by injuries. Let's be honest. Money's no object to Steve Cohen, the owner of the Yankees. And he's not done. There are more player acquisitions coming to the New York Mets. But at the end of the day, the pressure on Soto, I think, is going to be much different than the pressure was at Yankee Stadium. because he not only is he the big money guy, he's the only guy outside of Francisco Lindor. Can you really tell me any other, quote, superstars on that Mets team? And if they don't win, somebody made the crack this morning. If he doesn't have a good season, if dude's hitting 246 and he thinks Aaron Rodgers has had a bad season with the Jets, think what the media response is going to be if Juan Soto can't be Juan Soto because he's not surrounded by Aaron Judge and a lot of other really good frontline pitchers across town at Yankee Stadium. So, but the Mets are not done. I think there's more acquisitions coming.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
You're going to put on your tinfoil hat for a conspiracy theory?
Oh, here we go.
Some people have said that Juan Soto is not 26. He's actually older. What do you think of that?
I have no idea. But, I mean, there's no doubt he was a great player. I mean, he came up through Washington system fast. He got there real fast. And we talked about this prior. You know, there was at one point, they had Soto, the young outfielder Victor Reyes. They had Trey Turner. They had Strasburg. Actually, they had three good young pitchers. All of them broke down. I thought, wow, and Bryce Harper. I thought this franchise is going to be here for an extended period. But then the world changed and the prices went up, and the Lerner family said, we can't pay these prices. We're not corporate America owning this franchise. You know, we're not the Guggenheims, the investment bankers who own the Dodgers. And then guys went away, and then guys got hurt. And then Soto turned down $440 million, and they said, end of relationship, we're going to have to trade him. So,
well, just to add on to the conspiracy theory, and it is a conspiracy, but I saw a photo of Juan Soto, allegedly 18 years old, and he looked like a normal high school kid. And I remember when he was 19 playing for the Nationals, and you're like, who the hell is this guy? I mean, like a completely different person at age 19 than what he looked like at 18, assuming what you're hearing is true.
You can buy any conspiracy theory you want, but like I said, sometimes you have a tendency to do this podcast from left field. Well, I think you're out in left field on this one.
Do you think Pujols lied about his age?
No, because he went to community college in Missouri or Kansas before he got drafted really late. So no, I don't think he lied. He was a late developer, but you know, obviously he became monstrously big and he became a great power hitter. He was a good human being too.
Yeah, he's a good guy. But I think we all still remember Danny Almonte. You know,
yeah.
14 years old, pitching in the Little League World Series.
Clocking 89.
Yeah, from 46 feet.
Yeah,
you know, or whatever it was. Okay, let's keep on moving. Let's talk UCLA football. This is from Handsome Uncle Tommy. Chip Kelly sunk this program. Terry Donahue drove me crazy with his conservative style of football and setting the bar at conference championships and never national championships. Now I would kill for the slow, steady hand of a consistent 7-9 win season and the occasional 10-win season. I've never seen UCLA football so bad.
Yeah, this thing has eroded terribly. I mean, they're firing all these assistant coaches that Deshaun Foster just hired 9 months ago. That's a problem. I was shocked early this week when I found out that Justice Martin, who's supposed to be the starting quarterback next year, who had played this year a little bit when Garbers got hurt, he's gone. And of course, they lost Dante Moore the year prior. He went to Oregon. He's in that collection of quarterbacks that Dan Lanning stockpiling up there. Their talent level is so low right now. The interest is so low. You know, John and I talked about UCLA basketball. Once upon a time, Pauley Pavilion was the place to go watch a game and be. They're drawing 4,300 or 3,800 fans for home games for a really good Mick Cronin-led basketball program. UCLA is just, they've got all types of credibility problems. And just gave the athletic director a 3-year contract extension, and he's the one that hired Kelly, and he's the one that has overseen the fact that they're, $160 million in debt in the athletic department. It's just a bad situation. And of course, cross town, nobody cares about Trojan basketball, even though Musselman is there and trying to work hard. And obviously, maybe they guessed wrong on Lincoln Riley. I don't know. It's been strange. He's lost so many players in the portal 2 years running, and they haven't won either.
Yeah, it's just amazing how much college sports has changed.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously we could talk about the Pac-12 and it blew up, and there's been a lot of, conference realignment. But I'm going back, I'm thinking, what was the first really significant team that switched conferences? Was it Nebraska going to the Big Ten?
Well, that was the beginning. I mean, Penn State went into the Big Ten, then Nebraska, which made no geographic sense, but walked away from their legendary decade upon decade rivals. I mean, Nebraska, Oklahoma was the only thing that counted in Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
And they're gone. They left the conference. And, of course, Oklahoma's gone too now. You know, they're in the SEC, which makes no geographical sense. Once upon a time, the regions were really, really good. And now them scattered to the wind and go to the cemetery right there. The headstone says Pac-12 Conference. Lost its life. Thank you, USC, UCLA.
Amazing. You know, I like last night before the Aztec basketball game, I was watching a replay of Bronco Mendenhall's press conference at Utah State. What a good guy, you know? But it's just all these moving parts. You know, if it's not conferences and organizations, it's coaches and now the players. I mean, everything is changing. Hard to keep track of them all. You probably have a crib sheet to keep track of everybody.
Not for good. It's not good. And somewhere, somehow, there has to be an antitrust exemption to college athletics that will give the NCAA's leadership control of the portal and the NIL, and we'll get some rational decisions made as to what you can do and what you can't do, because now it's the Wild West. And like the Colorado State coach, Jay Norville, he just lost his mind at his press conference this week talking about my top 26 players have all been tampered with by agents, and they're just trying to steal them and then deliver them somewhere else and get in the commission.
Well, it's just these old school coaches don't like the new world, you know, and that's the thing with Bill Belichick. I don't know if he's going to be able to handle all this.
Well, that's why he's got Mike Lombardi, but Belichick's reputation is pretty doggone good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, his history of teaching and the systems and what he thinks is important in terms of value in the person. I'd let my kid go play for him. I don't know whether my kid could play in the NFL, but my kid would get a good football education in addition to a good college education at North Carolina. But it's going to be different. I mean, it's a whole different environment to be in that game compared to the environment that he had in the National Football League, where you're in that building 12 hours a day. It's not going to be that way at North Carolina. It's not that way anywhere else.
Spygate, North Carolina. What do you think?
Yeah.
You can have these drones flying. You've been hearing about these drones in New Jersey.
Yes.
You'll have drones like all over the ACC.
Just absolutely amazing. And speaking of the whole Belichick thing, you got to go to my website. You got to read my column that I wrote today about Belichick, One Man's Opinion column on my website. I think you'll like it. Let's do one more social media.
Okay, we got a Padres roster comment here. This is from Douglas, and he says, Dodgers improve with Blake Snell signing. Mets improve with Juan Soto signing. Padres, you got a huge problem in the NL. San Francisco Giants even signed Willie Adames. You got a problem.
Well, they do have a problem right now, but as AJ Preller said, we laid the groundwork, and there's still a lot of players out there to go get, and there still may be the Dylan Cease or the Luis Arraez trades, which would probably net them a different type of player, maybe younger players. But if you start subtracting cornerstone guys from your roster, do you really have the same roster? Do you really think you're going to be equal to what you were last year when you had the Dodgers right there by the throat and you let them get away? I go back. I think about that playoff game. I was at my cottage in upstate New York. I was in a bar, a biker's bar, surrounded by drunk Yankee and Met fans. I'm watching the Padres Dodgers and seeing the Padres lose that home game. My heart sank, and I thought, oh, you let them get off the hook. And then they did let them go off the hook because you had 24 straight scoreless innings, and the thing was over. I mean, you talk about the end of the season being sudden. Wow.
I just have this vision of Hacksaw in a biker bar in upstate New York. I mean, that would have been something.
Bartender was a Cardinal fan, fanatical Cardinal fan, who was eternally pissed that they're not the Cardinals they used to be. And I got Met fans and Yankee fans, and they were all loaded, and they're sitting there, and it was a lot of fun. And then one of the guys, I'm sitting in the bar, and I asked me what I did. So I told him I sports talk show guy. I did NFL football, And 15 minutes later, a guy comes back in the bar. He's got my website posted up on his cell phone. Look who this guy is. This guy's really important. And so then now I wound up doing a talk show. Guys are buying me Utica Club beer, sitting there drinking. I'm doing a talk show while trying to watch the Dodger game.
Oh, but you love that.
Oh, it was good.
You like the attention.
It was fun. I went back there 3 nights in a row. It was just... And I don't drink, but I drank a lot of Utica Club beer that night.
Good stuff, man.
Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed this podcast. We're here Mondays. We're here Thursdays. Hope you'll tell everybody about what we're doing with Hacksaw's Headlines. Podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. 9 locations to serve you. Don't forget, Christmas shopping, last-minute idea, DIXIELINE gift cards, great stocking stuffers. John, we got Thursday night football, we got Army, Navy, we got all things NFL, and we probably got more baseball trades. We'll be back in here Monday at 1 p.m. Be prepared to talk sports.
Go Niners. Tonight's it's Go Niners.
We thank you for joining us. We do sports talk radio the way we think it should be done. Thanks for being part of Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.